Hello everyone, and welcome back to Sun Moon Audiobook, the channel where we share wisdom and inspiring book journeys to help you grow and develop your best self, inside and out. The sky is full of unseen rivers. They move above us, invisible, carrying storms and sunlight, shifting the rhythm of our lives without ever asking permission. To live well, to live deeply, is to learn how to step into those currents, to swim inside something larger than ourselves, and to discover that when we align with the hidden flow of life, the chaos of the world softens, and something like joy begins to pulse quietly in our veins. This is the soul of what Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi called flow, and his life was dedicated to mapping those rivers for us, so we might learn not only how to survive, but how to thrive. Csikszentmihalyi was not just a scholar of psychology. He was a guide into the landscapes of human experience. Born in Hungary, shaped by the turbulence of war, he carried a deep hunger to understand why some people, even in the midst of suffering, radiated strength and joy, while others, despite comfort and safety, drifted in emptiness. His voice has the texture of curiosity and compassion, not as a preacher of formulas, but as someone holding a lantern in the dark, showing you that the path to fulfillment is not outside, but within the fabric of your own moments. And so, this book he gave us is not theory alone. It is a mirror. It is a map. It is an invitation. The essence of flow begins with a paradox. Happiness is not found where most people look for it. We chase pleasure, possessions, recognition, but these moments are fleeting, like trying to hold water in your hands. True fulfillment does not come from passive comfort. It emerges from challenge, from being fully absorbed in something that stretches us, something that requires all of us, yet feels almost effortless once we are inside it. Imagine a painter who becomes so immersed in the stroke of the brush that time disappears, or a rock climber whose body and mind move in perfect unity against the mountain face, or even a child so wrapped up in building a sandcastle that the world outside the castle walls dissolves. This is flow, the merging of action and awareness, the quiet disappearance of self-consciousness, the deep joy of being alive in this exact moment. You, who are listening right now, know that longing. You felt glimpses of it maybe in music, maybe in work, maybe in a conversation where you forgot the clock. Flow is not rare. It visits us. But what Csikszentmihalyi teaches is that we can invite it, cultivate it, even design our lives so that it becomes not a fleeting guest but a steady companion. To understand flow is to understand that our mind is like a garden, and attention is the water. Wherever attention goes, life grows. Most of us scatter this water carelessly into distractions, worries, regrets, fears. And so our inner garden grows wild with weeds. But when attention is gathered, when it is fully given to one task, one challenge that matches our abilities, something remarkable happens. The weeds fall silent, the mind hums with order, and meaning blossoms where once there was only noise. This is why athletes speak of the zone, musicians of losing themselves, scientists of eureka moments. The miracle is not that these experiences are extraordinary, but that they are humanly available. They are waiting for us. One of the most tender truths of flow is that it transforms suffering. When you step into a challenge that absorbs you, even hardship becomes fuel. Think of Viktor Frankl, who, in the horror of concentration camps, discovered meaning not in avoiding pain, but in engaging fully with purpose. Though Csikszentmihalyi wrote in a different context, the spirit is similar. Our experience of life depends less on what happens to us than on how we shape our attention in response. Flow is not an escape from reality. It is a way of dancing with it. And here's the paradox again. Flow is not passive pleasure. It requires discipline, effort, focus. Yet, once entered, it feels effortless, like a river carrying you downstream. To chase only relaxation is to remain empty. To embrace challenge, to lean into the tasks that matter, is to taste joy. There is a rhythm to flow, a structure that reveals itself like a secret code. The challenge must match our skill. Too easy, and we grow bored. Too hard, and we feel anxiety. But in the sweet spot, where ability stretches just enough to meet difficulty, time bends, fear dissolves, and self expands. Think of Serena Williams on the court, shaping every serve and return with total presence. Think of Yo-Yo Ma, his cello not an instrument, but an extension of breath. These are not accidents of genius. They are lives built around flow, cultivated through attention and practice, through daring to remain present. And if they can live this way, so can you. There is a mantra that whispers throughout this teaching. Where your attention goes, your life follows. If you want to change your life, change the direction of your attention. This means becoming aware of how much of our days are wasted in passive consumption, scrolling, numbing, distracting. We do this because attention untethered feels restless, like a wild horse running loose. Flow is the gentle bridle, the path that channels energy into meaning. Imagine your consciousness as a stream. It can run muddy, clogged with debris, spilling into swamps of regret. Or it can run clear, focused, cutting through stone, creating valleys of beauty and strength. The difference is not the water itself, it is how you guide it. Flow also reveals something most of us overlook. Happiness is not a place we arrive at, but a condition we create in motion. Picture a mountaineer. The summit is breathtaking, yes, but the deepest joy comes not from standing at the peak, but from every grip, every pull, every step taken in rhythm with the mountain. Life, too, is this climb. We keep thinking the joy will come when we reach the top, when the promotion comes, when the relationship stabilizes, when the dream materializes. Yet Csikszentmihalyi reminds us that fulfillment happens while climbing, in the process, when every fiber of our being is engaged with what is right before us. The summit is fleeting. Flow is forever, if we let it be. This is why the people who seem most alive are not necessarily the ones with the most wealth or comfort, but the ones who pour themselves fully into what they do. A teacher who loses herself in shaping a child's curiosity. A gardener who feels the soil as if it were a hymn. A coder who disappears into the poetry of logic. Of them touch something eternal, not because the world applauds them, but because in that moment, they are whole. And being whole is the deepest form of joy we can know. Flow does more than give us joy. It stretches the self. When you step into flow, your limits expand. What seemed impossible before becomes natural. The self evolves, skills deepen, awareness broadens. Life becomes not a series of stagnant repetitions, but a spiral that keeps lifting upward. The self is not something we find, Csikszentmihalyi teaches. It is something we create through experiences that demand our full presence. This is why a person devoted to flow becomes larger, richer, more resilient. They are not escaping life. They are shaping it. Yet here is the tenderness we must face. Most of us avoid this path because it demands effort. We live in a world designed to pull our attention outward, to scatter it into 1,000 directions. Entertainment, convenience, constant noise, they seduce us with ease. But ease without meaning erodes us. It leaves us restless, anxious, hollow. The irony is that the very effort we fear is the doorway to joy. Flow asks us to commit, to focus, to give ourselves wholly. And in doing so, it frees us. It is a kind of paradoxical liberation. The discipline of focus leads to the expansion of the soul. You, right now, listening, might feel the pull of that tension. On one hand, the world makes you tired. On the other hand, a part of you longs to give yourself fully to something that matters. That longing is not accidental. It is your spirit remembering what it feels like to be alive. There is another truth in this journey. Flow is not limited to work or art. It can be cultivated in everyday life. Washing dishes can become flow when your attention is wholly absorbed in the rhythm of water and soap. Walking can become flow when your senses open to the sound of birds, the texture of air, the cadence of your steps. Conversation can become flow when you listen so deeply that you forget yourself and enter the world of another. Life does not withhold flow. It waits for us to pay attention. A personal memory flickers here. Once, sitting in a quiet cafe, I watched an old man carve wooden birds by hand. His movements were slow, precise, unhurried. Hours passed, but he never looked up. It was as if the whole world had dissolved, and only wood, knife, and breath remained. The birds in his hand seemed alive, but more than that, he seemed alive. In that moment, I understood something not through theory, but through witnessing that flow is a kind of prayer. It is the sacredness of being fully present in the act of creation, no matter how small. That memory never left me. Flow also teaches us that freedom is not the absence of rules, but the mastery of them. A musician cannot improvise beautifully until she has practiced scales, until they are woven into her bones. A dancer cannot express pure movement until discipline has trained the body to obey instinct. Flow is born from structure, from the balance of freedom and challenge. Without limits, chaos consumes. Within limits, creativity blooms. Think of a river. Without banks, it spills into a swamp. With banks, it carves valleys, nourishes fields, shapes worlds. Flow is the riverbank of our lives. Some of the most powerful examples of flow can be found in figures who shaped history not by chance, but through immersion in their craft. Consider Mozart, who, as a child, was so absorbed in composing that hours dissolved into nights. Or Michael Jordan, whose legendary performances were less about raw talent than about losing himself completely in the game, body and mind synchronized with the ball and court. Their greatness was not just in ability, it was in their ability to vanish into flow, to surrender fully to the task at hand. And while their lives may seem larger than ours, the principle is the same. Flow is not reserved for the famous. It is a human birthright. The real question is not whether you can experience it, but whether you will choose to cultivate it. Flow also redefines what it means to control our lives. We often think control means shaping circumstances, bending the world to our will. But true control, Csikszentmihalyi shows, is the ability to shape our inner experience regardless of circumstances. When you learn to guide your attention, you carry freedom everywhere. Even in hardship, you can choose to focus on a task, on growth, on creation. Even in uncertainty, you can enter the present fully and find meaning there. This is the secret that makes flow revolutionary. It gives us back our lives. It whispers that no matter what chaos surrounds us, the river is still here, waiting to carry us. And so, we come to one of the most transformative insights in Csikszentmihalyi's work. The balance between challenge and skill is not just the condition for flow, it is the blueprint for growth. Imagine a graph where challenge climbs upward and skill stretches across. If the challenge far exceeds skill, anxiety floods in. If skill exceeds challenge, boredom numbs us. But in that diagonal corridor where the two rise together, life becomes vibrant. This is the channel of flow, the narrow but infinitely expansive space where our best self emerges. To live in flow is to continually step into challenges just beyond our current ability, stretching without breaking, expanding without collapsing. This is how children learn, how artists evolve, how leaders transform. It is the secret of mastery. Growth is not sudden, but a continual entering into the corridor where we are stretched enough to stay alive. And here lies a hidden gift. Failure, when reframed, is not an enemy of flow, but a teacher. Every misstep, every stumble, is data. It refines our skill, guides us closer to that balance. The climber who slips learns how to place the next foothold. The writer who struggles with a sentence discovers a sharper truth. The entrepreneur who falters finds resilience in the rebuild. Flow does not demand perfection, it demands presence. It asks only that we give ourselves fully to the moment, and in return, it grows us into who we were always meant to become. You might notice too how flow dissolves the self. In everyday life, we carry the heavy burden of self-consciousness, the inner critic, the constant comparison, the measuring of worth against others. But in flow, that voice falls silent. There is no room for doubt when all attention is absorbed in the task. And when the self dissolves, something paradoxical happens. We do not shrink, we expand. We become larger, not smaller, because we are freed from the prison of self-obsession. This is why flow feels so liberating, so alive. It is not that we lose ourselves, but that we finally remember we are part of something greater. Csikszentmihalyi described this as the autotelic experience and activity done not for reward, but for its own sake. The word comes from the Greek auto, meaning self, and telos, meaning goal. Autotelic means self-contained, self-justifying. It means the doing itself is the reward. When you live this way, your days are no longer measured only by external achievements. They are measured by the richness of the moments themselves. And such a life cannot be taken from you because its value is woven into the present. The question then arises, how do we build an autotelic life? Csikszentmihalyi points us toward practices of shaping attention. One of the simplest is to set clear goals for ourselves, not vague wishes, but concrete steps that direct our focus. Another is to find feedback in our actions so we can adjust, adapt, and deepen our engagement. A third is to cultivate curiosity, to approach tasks not as obligations, but as invitations to discovery. These are not grand gestures. They are small shifts in how we meet each day. Washing the dishes can be an obligation, or it can be an exploration of warmth, rhythm, order. Writing an email can be a chore, or it can be an experiment in clarity and connection. The difference lies not in the task, but in the quality of our attention. And this is where flow begins to change not just moments, but entire lives. Because when you string together enough moments of flow, you weave a life of meaning. There comes a point in every journey when the listener, the one you are now, may feel both inspired and overwhelmed. Perhaps you feel the hunger to live in flow, yet the weight of habits and distractions presses heavy. Here, let me pause with you. This is the midpoint of our river, the place where the current slows and the banks widen. It is natural to feel doubt. It is natural to wonder if such a life is possible for you. But hear this. Change does not begin with grand revolutions. It begins with a single act of presence. The first step into flow is small one conversation entered fully, one walk taken without distraction, one task embraced with undivided attention. Do not measure yourself against the climber on the summit. Begin where you stand. This is enough. And as you do, something begins to shift. Flow teaches us not only how to live in the present, but how to design the future. Because every choice of attention shapes who we become. If you spend hours lost in distraction, you become scattered. If you spend hours absorbed in creation, you become whole. The self is not fixed. It is sculpted moment by the direction of your attention. This truth is both humbling and empowering. You are not the victim of your past. You are the artist of your present. And as you create your present, you shape your future. Even the great innovators of our age understood this. Steve Jobs spoke often about the necessity of focus, of saying no to distractions in order to pour energy into what truly mattered. His genius was not only in vision, but in his ability to enter flow, to obsess over design until it disappeared into simplicity. Or consider Maya Angelou, who would write in a bare hotel room, stripping away all distractions, until her pen carried her into the river of words, where she found not only poetry, but herself. They remind us that flow is not luxury, it is necessity. It is the soil where greatness grows. And in the end, flow is less about escaping life's difficulties and more about learning to dance with them. Csikszentmihalyi did not write to tell us that life would be smooth or simple. He wrote to show us that within the chaos there is a pattern, and within that pattern we can find joy if we learn to align with it. Flow does not remove hardship, but it transforms how we hold it. It gives us a way to move through suffering with grace, to turn even pain into a kind of creation. A runner pushing through the ache of muscles feels not only strain but exhilaration, because the pain is not meaningless, it is part of the challenge, part of the engagement, part of being fully alive. And so it is with every aspect of life. The very things we resist often become the gateways to our deepest experiences when we meet them with attention. You may wonder, how can I begin this in the smallest ways? Start by noticing. Pay attention to when you lose track of time, when you feel absorbed. Those moments are clues. They are the doors already opening. Step through them, then shape your days with intention. Choose one task to do with full attention, even if it is small. Notice how it feels. Allow yourself to be carried, and gradually extend that state into more and more of your life. Flow is not only for extraordinary achievements, it is for the kitchen, the workplace, the street, the quiet room at night. It is for you, here and now. There is another layer to this teaching that whispers of something larger than ourselves. Csikszentmihalyi suggested that flow may be the key not only to personal happiness, but to human evolution. A life filled with flow creates individuals who are creative, resilient, compassionate, and a world filled with such individuals becomes a world of progress, beauty, and harmony. To cultivate flow in your life is not only a gift to yourself, but to humanity. You become part of the great current of growth that carries us forward as a species. This thought humbles me, and it may humble you as well. Your joy, your presence, your attention, these are not small. They matter more than you think. They shape not only your destiny, but the fabric of the world. And here, as we near the close of this long conversation, I want to offer you something tender. The permission to begin again. You may have lived years in distraction, in fragmentation, in restlessness. You may feel behind, as though joy belongs to others, but not to you. Yet the truth is this: every moment is a doorway. Every breath is a chance to re-enter the river. Flow does not ask what you have done before. It asks only, will you step in now? You who are listening, you have this choice, right here, in this moment. To give yourself wholly, to let your attention rest in what matters, to surrender to the current that has always been waiting for you. And when you do, your life begins to change, not in fireworks, but in quiet radiance. You will notice time feels different. The days stretch richer. You wake with a sense of purpose not borrowed from the world, but grown from within. And as this becomes your rhythm, you will realize that joy is not something to be chased. It is something to be created, moment by moment, through the alchemy of your attention. Flow becomes not only what you experience, but who you are. Imagine, then, a sunrise. The sky shifting from darkness to light, not in one sudden burst, but in a slow unfurling. Each ray a thread of gold, each moment a deepening of color. This is your life when you live in flow. The darkness of distraction does not vanish all at once, but steadily, patiently, light spreads. And as it does, you see more clearly, you feel more deeply, you live more fully. This is the invitation Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi left us with: to step into the river, to choose presence, to live not on the surface, but in the current of joy. As we close, I want to offer you a quiet challenge. Tonight or tomorrow, choose one task and give it everything. Not your half attention, not your distracted presence. Everything. Lose yourself in it. Let time dissolve. And notice what awakens in you. This is how it begins. This is how it grows. And if this message has stirred something in you, if you feel even a small spark of recognition, a reminder of your own longing, then carry it forward. Let it change the way you live. And please, if this conversation has touched you, share it. Like it, comment on it. Subscribe to this space where we walk these journeys together. Your voice matters. Your reflections matter. Tell me what flow means to you, where you've glimpsed it, how you long to cultivate it. In speaking, you give life to the truth we've shared. In sharing, you ripple outward, carrying this light to others. And so we end here, with the river still flowing, with the sunrise still rising, with you holding the choice in your hands. Step in. The current is waiting.